What is going on? It's Terry. Today we're going to take a look at wall types in Revit, kind of give you some guidance on how to use them, what all their tricks are, how to make custom walls, things like that. It'll be a little extensive, but it'll be a good overview of how walls work. So if you go into Revit, click on your architecture tab, your wall is going to be your first icon here. If you're just starting out, you will probably have just a few generic wall types. It will look, pretty basic as just a solid form, nothing crazy. So we'll get into a more specific wall here. I have interior exterior walls set up already, and I would always recommend labeling your walls as you create them. It helps keep them separate. That way you're able to just quickly select and continue moving. So let's start out with the interior wall here. This is a wood stud wall that we have. As you can see, this wall has some layers to it. We've got gypsum, a wood stud in the middle, and then more gypsum, be a typical interior residential wall. This could also be commercial. The middle isn't really specified. We label it as wood, but you could technically say this is metal. To see what this wall is made of, if you click on edit type underneath your wall here, you can see that there is a properties menu here when you open it up. If you're looking to create a more refined wall, you can go find the structure command underneath construction, and if you click edit type, it'll show you the makeup of that wall. Here you can see we have the structure as wood, and then we have gypsum on either side of it. These are pretty easy to manipulate, very simple to use. If you're making an exterior wall, you could add a substrate and then add a finish. I'll show you that here in a second. But this is just a basic makeup. If you want a more detailed view as you're creating, you can click on the preview button here. That'll show you what you're working with. In a later video, I'll show you how to add reveals. If you're creating a more detail-oriented house, maybe it's high-end modern style, you can add wood bases here that will just show up on your walls. That way you don't have to model them later on, and it's already done for you. So this is just a quick overview of how you can modify these walls. And I will show you an exterior wall here, for example. Let's see, we'll show you exterior brick on metal stud. So as you can see, we've got your interior here, gypsum, your metal stud, then we have a substrate, and then the air gap, and then you have brick. If you're new to architecture, or maybe you're a student, it's pretty standard to have an air gap between your substrate and your brick. That allows the mason to get their hands in between the substrate and the brick. It helps for construction. In between here you would find metal ties that would be attached to the substrate. If we go in and take a look at this wall, you'll see that there's a lot more layers here. Again, we start out with the structure, metal stud, we have gypsum finish on the inside, and then you can see we have our substrate, our membrane, which is a 0 thickness. It'd be just some sort of vapor barrier, your air gap, and then brick. So that's a first look at some wall types. So I'm going to go ahead and lay out a basic square box for a floor plan, and we'll move forward from there. So if you're just drawing some walls and you continue them in a line, you'll see that they automatically join the corners. If you just are starting out and you want to get something on the page, go ahead and draw your walls, and then you can go in here and dimension them. So as you start to lay out your walls, you may need to tweak your dimensions, make sure it's what you want. When you go to dimension a wall for the first time, you'll see that it's giving me this dashed line in the middle of the wall. That's just the center line of the wall. That's not where I want to dimension to. If I'm trying to pick a certain line, you can just tab over these different lines and it'll let you pick them to dimension. So I'm dimensioning clear dimensions here. I would always recommend dimensioning clear dimensions first to help you get a better understanding of your interior square footage. So if I go ahead and put these walls at like a 40 by 40 square, and let's say I want to move all these. I don't have to move one at a time. If you pick on a wall and they're connected, they call chaining. You can just simply hit tab and it'll pick all your walls for you. So we'll just try to move that to the center, and then we'll move these guys out to the sides. That way they're not in our way. We kind of talked about these in the previous video if you want to go check that out. So we have our walls here. We take a look at it in 3D. If you always pull up a 3D and you have a hard time finding your wall, or maybe off the page, if you just right click, zoom to fit, that'll bring you right to what you need to find. So as you can see, we've got our 4 walls here. So let's say I want this wall to be shorter than the other ones. It'll have a porch, maybe a roof coming down. It's not going to be the full height as the rest of these. On the left hand side is our properties, like we talked about in the first video. If you come over here to the top constraint, I can select that and lower it down. Now it will constrain itself to that second level. If I want to make a custom profile, maybe I have some really weird, shapes going on. You can edit the profile and kind of add whatever, kind of elements you may have going on. Maybe it's an angle. Maybe I have like an arc or something. And just be sure that you make a completed shape. You do not want overlapping lines like this. Revit will tell you that's an issue. So you will have to go in and make sure that you have a complete outline, nothing overlaps. So if I check that off, now you can see I have a wall here that has the shapes that I would need if for some reason that's what my house was going to look like. So moving forward, we can match all these walls. We can use the align tool. If I'm just quickly moving, I know I want this wall to align to this, you would select this piece here, then that one, and you would move on. If you wanted to move all your walls and you didn't want to go into the properties, you would come up here and select multiple alignments. You would then click on that one, and then you could do multiple alignments at one time. So that's a real brief overview of how to adjust your heights. Again, you can go to your top constraints, set it to a level. If you know it's a certain distance away from a level that it won't snap to, you can go to level and then say it's 2 feet above that. You can add an offset to that connection, and then you will have your offset. So it's pretty straightforward, nothing really crazy. You can use all your tools here to do what you need to do. If you're going to mirror something, or if you're trying to copy everything, rotate, you do what you need to use. I would definitely spend some time using these options here, figuring out what they all do. Revit does a pretty good job of giving you a quick example of how that works, and if you hover over the icon long enough, it will give you an overview of what the command does and typically how to use it. Sometimes that can be a little tricky, so if you have some trouble, either just leave me a comment, or you can go check out some other channels on YouTube for some tips. So now if we want to get into something a little bit crazier, let me load in a custom. Actually, I'll make one here for you, that way you can see how it works. So let's say you're starting out and you're building a massing model for your building. You can go to new and open conceptual mass, open the mass, and this will start a new project for you. And essentially what this is a massing tool. If you're an architect and you've ever gone to school, which you probably have, you know what massing models are. So if we come in here and we just kind of add this line, add this box here, and then I want to copy it up. I'm just trying to get a really quick geometry here for you. We'll copy that up. We will go back to the 3D view here, and then I'm going to rotate it 90 degrees. So now I have this kind of, rectangular shape that's going to twist up. So what I'll do next is I'll select them and I'll create a solid form. And now you can see we've got some very odd walls here. If this was to be a building. So now we can we'll load this into our project, close that out, and then we'll place this here. If I go to my 3D view here, you'll now see that I have this mass here. And Revit works really well within itself, and there's some other Autodesk programs that will allow you to model, and I would definitely recommend checking those out. But let's go back to talking about our walls here. So if I click down on my walls here, you'll see that I have several different options. If you just click on this icon, it's just going to bring you right to your architectural walls. Whatever you have set up, you'll have access to here. But I want to create a wall by face, and what that means is I want to pick this sweeping face here to be a wall. So what I'll do is I'll hit the drop down arrow, and then I'll open up and I'll click on wall by face. And so what this does is this lets me now pick faces of a geometry that I normally would not be allowed to make with just a generic wall command. So what I'll do is I'll click on that wall or that face, and now Revit has taken that face and has made me this very abstract, you could say modern wall, which would be impossible to make with just a regular command. So this is very useful for concept masses, really intricate buildings, whatever you're designing and you have some shapes like this is the best tool for you. So we'll go ahead and we'll finish out the box with the rest of the walls on the faces, like so. So now you can see I have my walls here. So if I go back to my main level, my plan is cutting at a certain height. You can change that pretty briefly or quickly if you go into your properties, have nothing selected in your view. You go down to your extents, you can click on your view range, and this is telling me that my plan is cutting at a 5-foot elevation from the main level. So if I wanted to change this, I can make it 6 feet. It'll pull up a little bit, or I could even lower it, make it 3 feet. Pretty standard for architectural drawings, is in the 4-foot to 5-foot range. I would recommend leaving it there. That way you'll always cut through all your windows, all your doors, and it'll get the necessary amount of detail you want in your plans. We can go into a little bit more depth on that in another video, showing you how you can maybe show one area at a certain height, but you want to show this area at a much higher height. We can go over that at another time. So that is a pretty basic overview of how walls work. I'll just close out of that. Since I've got it loaded into my project, it will save automatically. So that's walls. Even though this is a curved face, I can still come in here and put windows in here as I please, and you'll see Revit's going to cut them out. You'll need to tweak all your elements and make sure that this window gets inset properly in the wall, but it's very good for just laying things out as you need to. So it's still a wall. It's going to act as a wall. It's just got a really unique geometry that you can't get. So that's our overview on walls. today. Tomorrow I'm hoping to get a video about windows and doors. Then after that we will get into more viewing options like sections. We'll talk about the plan options and showing a lower region versus a larger region. I've got a whole list of ideas I want to help educate you guys about. So if you enjoyed watching this video, please leave a like. If you would like to see more videos come in the future, go ahead and subscribe to my channel, and I hope you guys all have a great evening. Thanks for watching.